The 6.5 is on the road in New York City for Cloudera Evolve 2023. Daniel Newman and I are talking about two of our favorite topics. First of all, generative AI. Dan, it seems like this is all we have been doing for the past 9 months, but we've also been talking about the reality. To get the best results, you need to have the best data. And this conversation we're going to have next is really the combination of those two.
I was looking forward to knowing what number 2 was. Okay, so exactly. I knew you were going to hit AI.
Which one is he going to hit?
It's AI and what?
Yes.
What is it going to be? Yeah, but I think we all know that the foundational work that has to be done by an enterprise to get value from their generative AI is substantial. It's palpable, in fact. And we hear a lot about kind of these outcomes.
Right.
And you're seeing companies with trillion-dollar market caps building things that can do generative AI. Right. But what about the rest? What about every other company? What does it take to get that done? And I feel like that's a lot of what we're talking about here at the Cloudera Evolve 2023 event in New York.
It is, and one other thing that we've been talking about a lot is about partnerships, right? Truly to deliver the value of generative AI to the enterprise, one vendor cannot do it all, and you need partners. I mean, it's the reality, and I think it's the new normal of technology, but particularly now with generative AI. And probably a good time to introduce our partners. First of all, Mona from AWS, how are you doing?
Good, how are you guys?
Excellent. Avas, great to see you again. You're a veteran to the 6.5.
Yeah, great to have me again, thank you. We had a lot of fun last time we did this. We also had a lot of fun in Austin at Formula One, so I'm looking forward to the next race.
It was great to see you, and you might even see this guy in Vegas.
I want an
don't know.
invite next time.
Hopefully.
I don't know. Actually,
you guys have the sponsors.
We did spend day one with AWS at F1,
good,
so
good.
I want to thank you.
Well,
Hopefully I didn't take your spot.
And actually thank you as well, because I was there as an AWS guest, and we had a great time.
Yes.
Mona, this is not a good deal here.
No.
I was there,
I missed out. But as long as AWS was there and AWS was a sponsor, that's great.
Good response.
And of course, AWS did some really great sessions talking about the relationship between F1 and data, which, by the way, massive. When you watch it from afar, you don't realize, and then you see all those race engineers in front of the screens, and you realize, crazy data-driven event. Anyways, we could go down a rabbit hole. That is not what we're talking about here. We are talking about the challenges that your customers, both individually and jointly, are facing. So, Abbas and Mona, I'd love to start with you there, talking a little bit about what the big challenges, what are the big struggles, the hurdles? Can I come up with any more words?
I don't know. Objections, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah. Difficulties that the customers are identifying as it pertains to them getting their generative AI projects off the ground.
Yeah, I think there are 3 core things. One is, majority of the customers who are large enterprises in regulated industries, they want to be able to train their models on the data that they have, with the enterprise context that they have, because no one wants to be necessarily going ahead and picking up something from the internet, or even through a open API plugin.
Yeah.
And therefore, they want to be able to train the data on the systems that it sits, but it's super hard for them to do it at a price point of their choice. So this, in addition to enterprise context being number 1, doing it in a sufficiently decent TCO is hard, and therefore customers are looking for ways in which they can reduce their compute cost, and they're looking for ways in which the hardware acceleration goes down. And thirdly, the biggest theme for us today, and we talked about, is trust.
Right.
Everyone wants to train the models on the data they can trust. Governance is a key issue. I gave the example of the keynote in the morning. There was a bank who asked me that, hey Abbas, what's your bank balance? And the chatbot should be smart enough to tell what their bank balance is, but it should be smarter to say, does this person even should have access or not? Right. So it's an authorization, governance, lineage question as well. So I say a combination of enterprise context, TCO for compute, and trust and governance are 3 of the largest themes we see at enterprise customers. But what about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we've seen at AWS is really a lot of customers wanting to even more accelerate their migration to the cloud. And so that's across all different industries, whether it's financial services, healthcare, life sciences, manufacturing, et cetera, you name it. Customers are now seeing that in order to get the sort of TCO and that economic value and that flexibility and that scalability, the cloud is really where they want to move to, and trying to migrate fast. And so a lot of what we've seen is that acceleration. I think the other area is, helping though to figure out like not everything can move to the cloud as quickly, right? And so figuring out like the preparedness and which workloads should be moved first to the cloud. And that's where our entire partner network kind of comes in, where our AWS partner network comes in to help accelerate that migration to the cloud. The other thing that we've done is we've created like a cloud adoption framework to really assess the preparedness of these workloads in the cloud. And then we have programs like workload migration program, the migration acceleration programs that really help customers, migrate over to the cloud quickly. I think the other thing that you mentioned was around, the infrastructure costs, right? And so one of the things that we've done, especially, running these, large workloads like those generative AI workloads, is that you need the right compute and having that infrastructure in place, but having it in a cost-effective way. And so one of the things that we've done is we've sort of looked at, in order to run these generative AI type of applications, you really have to look at it in sort of three major layers around your infrastructure, your sort of I would say LLM as a service almost, and then your applications. And I think one of the key areas that customers have been moving to is around the chipsets, right? Getting that infrastructure, getting that processing power. And so that's why AWS has Trainium and Inferentia are two sort of key chipsets where they then allow you to build these, get these generative AI applications in the cloud and run them faster, more efficiently, and in a cost-effective way. So that's kind of what we've been seeing a lot of our customers kind of working on. And then also, I think the other key thing is, generative AI can seem very complex. And so making it accessible to the right stakeholders and embedding those into applications. So embedding your LLMs or any sort of foundational models into applications in an easy way. So that's what Amazon Bedrock has delivered in that regard, and Cloudera is integrated to that. So having more partners integrate to really make LLMs more accessible.
Yeah, in fact, both our companies have written not only on your CDP, but also about Bedrock and everything you've done out there. And it really seems like a great partnership for two strategic reasons. So first off, and this is not an opinion, this is fact, is that AWS runs more AI workloads in the cloud than any other IaaS provider. And Cloudera, even though it does have cross-cloud, it does operate, at least by our estimates, manages most of the on-prem data, than enterprise data, than anybody that's out there. And what I'm really interested in, what are the, I don't know if you remember the Wonder Twins Unite. So
Wonder Twins, activate.
There we go. So what are you doing together to get more folks to be able to activate their generative AI work? What are you doing together? And maybe Abbas, we'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you're right. We have 25 exabytes of data under management.
By the way, just pause there. We've all seen the big data, right, when you come to an AI or a data conference, but it's a phenomenal amount of data, and I'm really glad that you published that about 6 months ago. So I don't really think people understood just how much data that it is under management. It is a mind-boggling amount of data, and still, quite frankly, we are, again, 14 years into the public cloud, and 75 to 90% of the data is still on-prem. So, man, it's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. And as I've said this before, it's just to understand the magnitude of that. It's 100 times bigger than one of our competitors, who happen to be slightly more revenue than us.
Right.
So for a period of time, that wasn't necessarily useful because a lot of enterprise customers were struggling with making sense from unstructured data. But now with large language models coming to the picture, they're now able to apply that enterprise context and get different outputs for different use cases. And some of the ways in which we're working with Bedrock is a fully managed serverless offering, but they also have a set of models available, their own models, but also Cohere and Anthropic and Titan and everyone else.
Yes.
So if you're a customer and if you want to leverage the power of the models available in Bedrock through Cloudera machine learning, which happens to sit on CDP, take the data which is sitting on the Cloudera Open Data Lakehouse, take that enterprise context, you can do that in a very easy to use fashion. And that is one of the primary ways in which we're starting to go to market. That's one. But then on top of that, we also have our SQL Assistant that is powered by Amazon Bedrock, and that's one of the most common use cases that we see for application developers. I say this often, which is because of large language models, a lot of the application developers now don't need to become a data scientist, because back in the day, every time you trained a model or retrained it or changed their attributes, you would have to go to a data scientist. Now you can apply the enterprise context and you can continue to be an application developer and get the outcome. And that is one of the key use cases that we start to see enterprises run with us and Bedrock and go through with it. One last point, so Mona mentioned Inferencia. We have applied machine learning prototype. There's an entire library of use cases. Think of them as blueprints which allow you to get started earlier. We are starting to test those amps on Inferencia too, in addition to some of our other partners as well. And that's the hardware acceleration TCO compute play. So this is purely the generative AI space that we're trying to do. And obviously, insofar as public cloud business is concerned, as PaaS, we have our partnerships with whether they be S3 or EC2, and that stays as strong as ever was.
Yeah, and perfect, well said, and not much more to expand on. I think you really covered the gambit of our technology, partnership and the integrations that Cloudera has with AWS. It spans from like S3 to EBS to Bedrock, and hopefully more to come, right? And then also starting to use Inferencia and our other chipsets that we have in order to run those those large language models or any sort of foundational models. I think another key thing that we've been doing with our partnership is on the business side, right? So we have all these great technical integrations, but how do we now go to market, right?
Exactly.
And make them available to our end customers. And so, recently we signed Cloudera signed a strategic collaboration agreement, and what that does is it's really meant to create transformational sort of initiatives that our end customers benefit from. And so you'll start to see more of that, providing our customers with those integrated solutions that let them, run their specific large language models or any sort of foundational models according to their specific use case. And so we're excited, as we sort of saw a bunch of customers here today, like Illumina for one, we're seeing how it's exciting, right, to see how these customers are using our sort of joint solutions together. So you'll start to see more and more of that, and just as our partnership sort of evolves, I think we have such a great opportunity together, and also with some of the other partners that are here today to really bring those solutions across the different industries, to our end customers. Yeah.
Wonder if twin powers unite.
We do, and
there we go.
It is, and there's two examples that I did want to share, right? There's Terre d'Homme, which is a company in Switzerland that does sort of matching, and what they have done is they've created an epidemic sort of alert system specifically for children.
Right.
And they started with malaria, but it's on Cloudera on AWS, and it's really starting to build sort of some of those solutions. And then there's Be the Match, which is also more of a donor type of matching system that really, there's 41 million donors that now within seconds, I think it's 35 seconds, they're able to do a match. So it's if you think
and again, this is Cloudera and AWS?
Cloudera and AWS.
Okay, so these tools would be GA?
Yes. These
or
are already
preview?
customers.
These are already in production
So
today.
customers
Okay.
are already
That's impressive.
using
Yeah.
Cloudera CDP on AWS. And what's also cool is that these are real solutions that we're building,
Right.
and we're making them available to customers through AWS Marketplace. So Be the Match actually is available. They actually purchased Cloudera on AWS. on AWS Marketplace. And that's ultimately what we want, is to get technology in the hands of customers when they need it, like in almost real time.
I think this is a very good example, though, of the pace of innovation as well.
Yes.
Now, I know AWS, there's been some pretty inaccurate depictions of AWS being late or behind on, because you didn't join the party 9 months ago for some rapid onset LLM announcement. And by the way, both of us in varying ways have debunked the myth.
And
First of all,
characterize it as a marathon, right, as opposed to a sprint.
You've been at it a little while, and the number of workloads on AWS infrastructure, plus the amount of people using SageMaker and other AI is palpable. It's substantial. And by the way, we're so early that even if they did get any advantage, you're talking this much of this market, right? So, but the speed that you can work with a large partner, get products in production, put them in the app marketplace, and get them deployed is very, very impressive, and probably a little bit of a sign of things to come. Now, that allows me to kind of take this home. So I'd like to hear from you both, and Mona, I'll let you go first, because Abbas has been answering these questions so well that he doesn't leave you anything to talk about. I'm kidding.
I don't have much to say.
So you found your words.
Well, that's why
you found your words, but
Yeah.
what's next? And this is a moment to talk about the partnership, but also, the world always wants to hear about AWS. So where does this evolve in terms of AWS Cloudera? Where do you see this whole generative AI movement going?
So I'll kind of talk about in terms of like our perspective, because you sort of brought it up. I think you teed it up where like there's this perception that we're sort of late to market, and I'll just say on the Amazon front, like we have been working with AI for over a decade, and it is visible in some of the solutions that we have today around Amazon Go, with the stores, the cashless, the cashierless stores, small little retailer, plus like what we did with Alexa devices. But those are sort of the things that kind of come to mind as we've been at this for a long time. And as we've sort of approached AWS, with the whole generative AI lens, it really is around these sort of three mega layers or three layers. The first we talked about, which is around infrastructure, and so having AWS Trainium and Inferentia has been a game changer when it comes to running your models, right? And you need that sort of compute power. The second layer being sort of that almost like a LLM or foundational model as a service, and being able to integrate LLMs into your applications via an API. That's Amazon Bedrock as an example. And then the third layer is really around applications. So then being able to leverage generative AI into your applications, and what we have with like Amazon Code Whisper. So being able to develop code really quickly, almost like a code assist, to then develop innovation faster. So to your point of acceleration, this is where we're headed, is to really, as a partnership, get customers and ourselves to innovate quicker and faster. So you'll start to see even more integrations with Cloudera and AWS, and it's going to be around many different facets around those three sort of layers, but also just the intent being that with all the data that you have, making sense of it and then using it in order to innovate faster. So, and then the other angle I would say is also bringing partners to the table, like that you're going to have, customers are going to have these complex use cases. So I think one of the things that's really important is to also have, bring SIs, bring channel partners to the table that can really help deploy it quicker and faster to our end customers. So you'll start to see a lot of that from us as a partnership as well. And I'll leave you with some stuff to say.
You have anything left to say?
Because I'm kind like that.
Well, it is a future question, so it's pretty much boundless here.
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head. A majority of the points. Just 2 points is to accentuate and double click on, which is the commercial agreement that Mona mentioned. That is an important milestone, because for us as a hybrid cloud company, we are a hybrid data company, but we're public cloud first. We want to make sure the majority of our customers are able to get onto public cloud as fast as possible, but also be able to leverage the credits that they might actually have via AWS with them, and we're the fastest way to get them to burn down those credits because of the strategy that we have, because of the data we have. So this commercial agreement, the strategic collaborative agreement, will actually create a push in the go-to-market teams, which was one of the key things that came out of it, because we always talk about the cool product integrations and the story about that. But ultimately, as you guys know it better than anyone else, you have to sell it, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I'm so glad when you brought that up on GTM, I'm like, whew,
Yes.
you know, and then you're talking about it too, because the best technology doesn't always win. I mean,
That's
it has
right.
to be taken forward in the marketplace, positioned well, sold, and there has to be economic opportunity all the way along the value chain. And again, I view that as kind of the growing up of the cloud. It's a teenager, it's 14 years old. And we're to the point where a lot of companies who are engaging in it, I would, if you would ask me 5 years ago, if certain companies would be able to like, no way, right? And to your credit, I see names showing up in marketplace that I never would have expected.
We just talked about this, right? You were mentioning.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Imagine that we're bringing this into the conversation here.
Yeah, exactly.
So but sorry to cut you off.
No, totally fine. At least she was being kind. That is true.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm joking. No, I think that was the first point, the commercial point. And the only other thing which I said when Mona mentioned about further integrations there might be, that is true. And we've even started to work with some of the vertical solutions teams, because for financial services and telco, those are two industries whereby we have a lot of joint customers, and we want to be able to get them to a point whereby they can develop end-to-end applications into an interoperable way at a price point of their choice. So that is one of the other things we'll continue to develop.
And then that's where a lot of customers in those industries have asked, like, hey, we want to purchase through Marketplace, and because of all the benefits that they get out of it. So AWS Marketplace has just been this, makes it real. So all the solutions that we're building, all the cool, innovative, transformative stuff that we have through the SCA are brought to life now through the AWS Marketplace to our end customers.
And dealing with the industries and dealing with the complexities and then providing a marketplace really does match what we see as the way the rising decision makers want to consume, which is very important too in the AI era, that we make things more frictionless. So it sounds like you've hit it on the head. We look forward to tracking that, and of course our opinion will mean a lot in terms of whether it actually succeeds. Right?
I thought my opinion meant more. No, I'm just kidding.
We know.
As analysts,
we know. Abbas, Mona, thank you both very much for joining us here on the
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for your time, and we'll hopefully see you in Vegas or maybe Abu Dhabi.
You will see me.
I'm waiting for that invitation. So
we're all three are looking at somebody.
I know.
I know.
We'll definitely have you back soon.
All right, sounds good.
All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us here at Evolve 2023 in New York City. Pat, it's been a lot of fun. Hit that subscribe button. Join us for all the other episodes that we did. We covered a ton of ground, but for this show, for this particular episode, Pat,
we're out of here.
See you later.